is Fired Up Friday, ladies and gentlemen. And you know what that means. Justin Spears is here with us on the show to pretty much give a weather report. And I guess we're also going to talk Arizona versus BYU on the other side of this intro. Leave a like. It's the AZ Wildcats podcast. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome on in, everybody, to the AZ Wildcats podcast, coming to you live from Studio K, presented by our friends over at Circle K. It's a Fired Up Friday. I am Damon Dog. That's Kevin Thomas, and we are the AZ Wildcats podcast, coming to you live from PHNX HQ Trace here in downtown Phoenix. Another overcast day here in Arizona, Kevin, as we gear up for the Arizona Wildcats to take on the BYU Cougars. Just a mere few hours away. I guess we're 27 hours away from the designated kickoff time. We'll see if that holds true or not. But yeah, it's an overcast day. It's looking like an overcast weekend here in the great state of Arizona. And we are excited to be talking about some football.
Very excited. It is Fired Up Friday. I'm pumped. Damon, we got our best bets coming up here at the end of the show, like we always do on Friday, because I'm actually here this time around. I was not here last Friday. Excited to get after it with our fired up friend Justin Spears, previewing Arizona versus BYU, Damon, as well. And you have a nice little new trinket on set as we're representing the Cactus logo with that little mini helmet there as well. So should we get Justin in on this party?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Let's bring our guy Justin Spears, of course, of Spears and Ali, every weekday morning from 7 to 9 a.m. Tucson.com, Arizona Daily Star, pumping out great articles and just doing great social content as always. But Justin, we are fired up to have you on a Friday, my guy. How are things? How's the old Pueblo?
Yeah, man, it's overcast, like you guys said. I'm looking out the window right now, and I see a lot of gray out there, and the winds are also starting to pick up too. So it's going to be a very interesting 30 hours. You know, at the time we're doing this show, it's Friday afternoon, and so we're approaching that 24-hour mark. You know, how these storms are going to look over the next day or so is going to be very interesting. But, you know, I've been, talking to some people who are obviously connected with the program and, people who are affiliated with the Big 12. And at the latest update that I got is that everything is still on schedule and they're going to kick off at 5 o'clock, barring anything dramatic happening. You know, I reached out to the Big 12 yesterday and, they told me that, they're monitoring the situation. They're going to keep an eye on it. But they'll never make a decision unless they just absolutely have to. If they feel like they have to make that decision and move it up, then they'll make that call. They did that last year with the ASU Oklahoma State game up there in Stillwater, which is kind of funny because they moved it up over, I think, like 3 hours. And then at halftime, the game got delayed by 2+ hours. So it was like, could have just kicked off at the normal time after dealing with the lightning delay. But yeah, so they moved it up last year, and that was something that they kind of waited until really like the day before to make that call. And now here we are doing this podcast on Friday. I talked to some people, and as of now, everything is still on schedule to kick off at 5 o'clock.
So if there was to be any type of change, Justin, it would just be that they would move the kickoff time up earlier in the day. Is there any chance of like a delay situation happening?
There very well could be, because you also have to think about it. This game's on ESPN2, so it's a nationally televised game. ESPN, they're probably like, no, we'll risk it. Yeah, we'll go ahead and have this game because we're TV and we kind of control everything. So yeah, we don't mind kind of waiting it out and seeing what happens. And this is where it gets really interesting because, if this game has BYU, you can't move it to Sunday because BYU does not play athletics on Sunday. So it's either like you got to move it up on Saturday or you're going to be playing really late Saturday, early maybe Sunday. That's, if of course, if the worst happens and there ends up becoming a delay, which I really hope does not happen. We've already dealt with the weather delay this season. That Weber State game kicking off at 9 p.m. that sucked. I know it was, easy day at the office for Arizona and they won 48-3, but nobody wants to see a lightning delay, especially twice in one season. So I'm hopeful that, everything will be smoothly. It, might get a little wet there towards in the middle of the game, because that's when, the rain's starting to hit. So if you're going out to the game, just please be prepared. Bring ponchos, maybe wear red ponchos, right? And honestly, if I'm Arizona Athletics, I would figure out a way to get thousands and thousands of ponchos and just have them at the gates for people to pick up. Get like red ponchos. People can pick them up as they walk in. So that way, heck, even BYU fans, if they got to get a poncho, they got to wear a red one, right? So maybe Arizona Athletics can order, 50,000 ponchos overnight. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Like I said, I'm really curious to see how this storm is going to turn out.
Yeah, and I remember when Brent Brennan was asked earlier, I believe it was yesterday at his press conference, Justin, about kind of how Arizona was going through the steps of preparing for an inclement weather game. He mentioned that, in his long tenure time over at Oregon State, that obviously they dealt with rain about as much as anybody being in Corvallis, and that they very much just kind of business as usual did, right? Like it was, we're a football team, we're going to have to deal with inclement weather. We're going to have to still do what we want to do on the football field. But is there anything that this program is doing to prepare for this game in a maybe more detailed sense that you're keen on or aware of? Because I know Brent Brennan doesn't want to give all the secrets, but you saw like ASU might be in an inclement weather game this week. And I found out that Kenny Dillingham invented putting water on the football before a rain game. So I'm wondering if maybe Brent Brennan in Arizona invented anything.
Yeah, that drill of spraying the water bottle on the hands as the quarterback is making his throws. I thought that was an interesting drill. But yeah, we talked to Bobby Wade earlier in the week, Arizona's wide receivers coach, and he said that they are not thinking about the weather, but if in the event of weather really becoming an impact on this game, then Arizona later on in the week, they would work on wet ball drills. Like they would, spray the water or spray water on the footballs, and they would do drills that way. You might, work on catching the footballs without gloves on. And then you really have to emphasize eyes to tuck and getting that ball to your body and securing it, because that ball is going to get slick. And if that ball gets slick, this is going to be a very interesting game for Arizona in terms of ball security and also special teams, right? Getting that snap in the field goal to, the holder and Michael Salgado Medina making that kick. So, if that ball gets slick, it's going to be a very interesting game for Arizona. But, Bobby Wade said earlier in the week that, yes, they are potentially working on drills to where they are focusing on the eyes to tuck and making sure that those wide receivers are holding on to that football.
I know you're a big J journalist, Justin. And I know that Arizona is your, primary focus. But do we know if Jeff Sims got any experience with the wet balls? I know that the videos were of Sam Levitt, but he ain't playing. Or at least he's doubtful to play in this one. And so maybe, you know what I mean? Maybe everybody needs to look. Maybe everybody from Chris Hunter down to like Gio Richardson and Isaiah Mizell. We got to make sure everybody has the same level of preparation, because you never know. But in terms of the weather in this one, you're talking about the level of preparation that Arizona's going to have for this one, Justin. On the field in live reps during game day, Damon and I have talked about it, but I'll poke you with the same question. How do you think it affects Arizona's on-field performance in this one compared to BYU if the weather is inclement?
Well, when you certainly look at it, it favors BYU, because BYU has a great running back in LJ Martin, who is one of the top rushers in the Big 12. He's averaging over 6 yards per carry. And if you look at, yards per carry after contact on Pro Football Focus with like a minimum of like 50 or 100 snaps or whatever it is, like he's one of the top guys in college football. So he is so physical and hard to bring down. And Brent Brennan said during his press conference that LJ Martin is the kind of guy that's going to run through you. He's not going to run around you. He is going to lower his shoulder and run through you. So this is going to be a really tough running back that Arizona is going to face. Honestly, it's probably the best running back that Arizona has faced this year. And this defense is going to be tested. And, when it gets rainy and you have to rely on the ground game, then LJ Martin, I mean, that's going to be a tall task for Arizona. And then also Bear Bachmeier as well, their quarterback, who is kind of built like a running back, right? I think he's like 215, 220 pounds or something like that.
Got a fullback number too.
Yeah, and he's rocking number 47, which is crazy. I was actually trying to think about the last time that Arizona played against a starting quarterback who had a jersey number that was higher than 20, like 20 plus. When was the last time Arizona had an opponent like that? Like, you got to go all the way back to like the 1920s when they played against Northern Nebraska, and the starting quarterback was Popcorn Johnson.
The Douglas YMCA. 34.
Yeah.
It's Smokey Johnson for Nebraska here.
Yeah. Like guys that didn't actually go by their first name. They went by Smokey or Popcorn or stuff like that. So yeah, when they played Popcorn Johnson, probably the last time they played against a quarterback with a number 47, but Bear Bachmeier is so good at running the football as well. He's their second leading rusher this season. So LJ Martin is really their bell cow guy. Bear Bachmeier is really the do-everything quarterback that can utilize his legs, and he's a very tough kid, even as a freshman, right? This kid was supposed to be at Stanford this year as a true freshman. Now he's playing for BYU because of that coaching change that happened in the offseason. So he's a solid quarterback. And then if you look at the defense, I mean, they have some really good linebackers. Now, they are banged up, don't get me wrong, but, they have two linebackers that have combined for 13 tackles for loss this season. Their starting defensive end, Logan Latui, who leads them in tackles, that man's a grown man. That man graduated high school in 2017, and he's currently playing college football at BYU. So BYU, they got some dudes on the other side of the ball, man. They've got some grown-ass men, guys with families. I mean, heck, there's a coach over here talking about, yeah, we have an emergency plan if one of our players, his wife, is about to go into labor. And he's like, yeah, we have a jet lined up for him so he can fly back to Utah when his wife goes into labor. So these are grown men with families, and this is going to be a huge
feels like a violation. Feels like an NCAA violation. It feels like special preferential treatment, and like maybe BYU is putting some extra coinage in this guy's pocket, if I do say so myself.
Maybe. Well, I mean, shoot, you see what they're doing with basketball, man. The amount of great players that they're pulling in right now. Yeah, it's a fun time to be at BYU. I'll tell you what. But I think this team is very tough. And, if Iowa State was tough, well, guess what? You got another bully on the block that's coming to Tucson, Arizona, and they're 5-0 for a reason. They haven't really played anybody. This is really the best team that BYU has played all season long. And these are two great defenses. But if we're just going based off of okay, how does the weather, if it does get rainy and wet, how does that going to affect both teams? Well, the run game certainly favors BYU because they have shown it. Last week against Oklahoma State, listen, I know the Cowboys put 8 men in the box, but come on, man. 45 yards against the worst rushing defense in the Big 12. I get it, but you also have to really impose your will and figure out ways to get some runs going. Now, with that being said, Arizona's running backs have been a little bit banged up, right? Kedrick Reesno only had a couple of carries. I know Quincy Craig has been a little bit banged up as well. So maybe now, if those guys are healthier, along with Ismail Mahdi and his ascension, maybe we really see the running backs start to get going this week. But going back to what I said about, the run game against Oklahoma State dared them to pass. And what did Noah do? He ended up throwing for 5 touchdowns and ended up becoming the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week. So Arizona's offense, they can counter you with anything, but against a BYU team that is so sound defensively, if you could just stay ahead of the sticks and get into these third and short situations, especially in rainy weather, right? I think that's going to be the key for Arizona, and honestly, vice versa for the defense. If they can force Bear Bachmeier, a true freshman, into these third and long situations in the rainy weather, and then I think Arizona's defense could really come up with some big plays and some takeaways. So this is going to be a fun game, man. This is easily, in my opinion, the biggest home game of the Brent Brennan era.
It is the biggest home game of the Brent Brennan era, certainly thus far. And you touched on the keys to taking that home game home and winning the whole thing on Saturday. What did you think of Brent Brennan's keys that he gave in his press conference yesterday? Damon and I discussed it on the show. And which one did you think was of highest importance that Brent Brennan gave out yesterday?
Well, he said the takeaway battle for sure. You definitely have to win the turnover battle if you want to win. The physicality as well, you have to be able to match that because they're mature, right? Like I told you, Logan Latui is currently in his mid-20s.
They got dad strength on that side.
They definitely have some dad strength, and that's different, man. That is totally different. So you got to be able to match their strength and the physicality. I mean, you have to be able to bully the bully, and BYU has really been that standard of playing bully ball. And so I think for Arizona, you have to be able to play physical, but also with controlled chaos. You can't be racking up a bunch of penalties because then that's going to work in favor of BYU. The thing about BYU is that they're going to knock you in the mouth, but they're going to do it that's actually legal in the sport of football. So Arizona has to be really smart when it comes to penalties. They were really bad with penalties the first few games of the season, and I give them a ton of credit. I think the penalty in the penalty department, they've done a much better job on that front. So if you can keep up that physicality, but also not get crazy with the penalties, then I think Arizona will be okay.
I wanted to kind of dive a little bit deeper into the Ked Ricino part of things because, we saw him take the bulk share of the carries in that week 1 performance against Hawaii. And you mentioned in regards to LJ Martin and BYU, how he's this big physical runner, how that could be beneficial to, potentially being in an inclement weather game like this one might be. Do you think that gives Ricino an opportunity to potentially, kind of find his way back into this kind of rushing attack? Because I know Ishmael Ahmadi obviously is going to get a bulk share of the carries, deserved. He's been the best running back on the team and most consistent so far this season, but it does seem like that kind of bigger body back could definitely provide a different angle for Arizona's offense in this one.
Yeah, and it really just depends on, how healthy is he? Because, a couple games ago, I think, against Iowa State, he was available, but he just didn't play because he was kind of more of like a just-in-case situation, in case Ismail Mahdi or Quincy Craig or whoever had a really bad injury and they needed a veteran running back, even though he wasn't fully 100%. Well, that was before the bye week, right? So they had the bye week, went through a week of practice for Oklahoma State, and then now you have a whole nother week preparing for a big opponent. So, whatever that, foot injury, whatever happened with Kedrick Ricino, I think now that he is healthier, we're going to see more carries. I would imagine that we're probably going to see more than 2 carries out of Kedrick Ricino coming up here on Saturday. Now, who knows? Injury reports happen, the availability reports, and we can end up seeing Kedrick Ricino back on it. We're probably not going to see it. This is not source. It's just me over here spitballing here. But you just never know. But I feel like Kedrick Ricino is healthier and he's in a really good spot right now. And like you said, they're going to need him because he is a tough running back and he's hard to bring down. And they're going to need him in those 3rd and short situations. And, Ismail Mahdi has to have complementary backs. One thing about Arizona in recent years is, those running backs, when there's a stable of them and they can continue to rotate and have those fresh legs, we could see what all those guys can do. Like I think about that 2023 season where you had Michael Wiley. And even when Mike was, a little bit banged up and was going through his thing, you had Jonah Coleman stepping up and putting up some big time production. And then DJ Williams, right? DJ Williams was like the closer for Arizona. Like he was the closer in that game against Stanford. He was the one that had that kind of like that knockout punch against Oklahoma in the Alamo Bowl. But those running backs all complemented each other well. And I feel like these Arizona running backs that they have right now are really solid, but they just got to get healthier. And then, Wesley Yarbrough, I've been very impressed with him as a freshman. I don't know what the plan is for him moving forward, but in the looks that we've seen from him, he doesn't look like a freshman. He looks like a guy that's game ready and ready to go whenever his number's called.
You touched on the injury report / availability report. One name on that report that's going to continue to be on that report is Trey Smith, as he is out for the season with some sort of undisclosed surgery that went on yesterday prior to Brent Brennan's press conference. What is the latest with Trey Smith, Justin? And can you tell us a little bit about Malachi Bailey and Dominic Lolesio's potential to fill those large shoes?
Yeah, that's a big loss for Arizona, man. Like we can't sugarcoat that. That's maybe Arizona's best defensive lineman. I mean, he was 6'5", 260 going on, 270 pounds. Like he filled out nicely as a defensive end and looks like, an ideal NFL player. So that's just a big loss for Arizona. But, you know, I think for him, getting healthier, I'm curious to see, what his situation is because he's already redshirted during his time in college. So I don't know if he has a medical redshirt and he's going to be able to come back or if his college football career is done at Arizona. But, he's been playing 6 years at the U of A. It'd be nice to see Trey Smith come back, but I don't know. I don't know what the situation is there. But, yeah, it's a big loss. This was a guy that is from Arizona, went to Mesa Red Mountain High School, and then signed with Brent Brennan at San Jose State and played a few seasons there and really did a nice job of developing in his last year at San Jose, and then transfers to Arizona and becomes a starter and a mainstay on the defensive line. And, I feel like we were really starting to see him kind of take off a little bit, because last year there were a lot of times where he would really get too far upfield. And then an athletic quarterback or a running back taking a handoff would kind of slip under him and then break off for, a 12-yard run. Or he would bull rush the quarterback and then the quarterback would step up in the pocket and go right underneath him. And so, that was kind of frustrating. And then all of a sudden with Joe Salavea, you start to see really Trey Smith start to take off. And, he had a pass breakup against Oklahoma State last week and, looked like a solid defensive end, but then he got hurt again and had surgery on Thursday. We don't know exactly what the injury is, but, if you remember earlier in the season, he had a leg injury and that forced him to sit out of the Kansas State game because he suffered it against Weber State, left the game in the middle of the game, and then came out during pregame warmups before the Kansas State game. And we all thought, oh, he might be active. He looks like he's going to go. And then went back in the locker room, took off his pads, wore street clothes. So obviously he missed that game. So again, we don't know what the season-ending injury is, but I mean, you can kind of connect the dots here and think, okay, maybe it's something related to that. But as far as what's next for Arizona's defense with Trey Smith being out, well, you got to look at Malachi Bailey, the transfer from Alcorn State, who had 28 sacks during his time at Alcorn State. And this guy's a stud. And the interesting thing about him was, I wasn't really high on him after the spring. I thought this was maybe, another FCS, group of 5 miss for Arizona because he didn't really step up in the spring. We didn't really see a lot out of him. And then, Danny Gonzalez, Arizona's defensive coordinator, sat down with Malachi in the offseason and said, hey, man, we're not really impressed. You're more than welcome to prove me wrong, or you can enter the transfer portal. And Malachi Bailey looked at Danny Gonzalez and was like, no, you're wrong. I'm staying, and I'm going to prove you wrong. And he worked his ass off. And in training camp was really one of the biggest developments for Arizona on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, this guy was getting to the quarterback. He was getting TFLs and blossomed into that player that Arizona signed in the spring. And so he's going to take over that starting defensive end spot. I think he's a really good player. And maybe now that he is no longer a rotational piece, maybe now that he's the guy and he knows that he's the guy, maybe we see another gear with Malachi Bailey. And then on the other side, by the way, Malachi Bailey, kind of like, a tweener between a tackle and a DN. He's a little bit over 270 pounds, but has incredible athleticism, really twitchy, really solid pass rusher. And then on the other side, you have Dominic Lalesio, who is much smaller than Malachi Bailey when it comes to weight, but he's also really athletic. And, this is a player that's been in that defense of line rotation ever since he was a true freshman. I mean, this was a player in 2023 was playing meaningful snaps in that fourth quarter against Colorado and Boulder and has really been right there. I mean, he hasn't really done anything that like jumps out and you're like, whoa, you see that big game by Dominic Lalesio, but he also hasn't really been a liability for Arizona. So he's a rock solid player. And those two guys at DN are really going to have a more prominent role. And then on top of that, I really think Danny Gonzalez is going to get really creative here and understand, okay, we are without our best edge rusher right now. Well, let's put in some more Riley Wilson, or let's put in some more Chase Kennedy, two linebackers that have edge rushing experience. And you might see more of that 2-4-5 look that Danny Gonzalez has referred to, where you got two defensive linemen and four linebackers, but two of them have edge rushing experience. So it's really like you have two other defensive linemen out there, but they have linebacker capabilities, which really gives another dimension to Arizona's defense and really makes them flexible on that side of the ball. So without Trey Smith, we're really going to see the creativity of Danny Gonzalez, but I fully anticipate that we're going to see a lot more Riley Wilson and Chase Kennedy.
Yeah, huge blow for Arizona's defense, losing Trey Smith, best defensive lineman on the team. But kind of moving forward through this availability report, Justin, some other names on here just to kind of look at. Jordan Brown saw some playing time last week, I believe, and now finds himself out on the injury report. You also have, of course, the two players that were announced that are leaving the program this week, in Kean Burnett and Jara Anderson. And then you have, Jeremiah Patterson, Arizona punt returner, who missed the last game versus Oklahoma State on the questionable side of things, and Jack Luttrell, backup safety, as well on the questionable side of things. I guess let's focus more on Jordan Brown and then the two guys who left the program. Justin, what are you hearing in regards to Jordan Brown and how big of a loss is this for Arizona's offensive line? And then kind of just let's transition into those two guys that left.
Yeah, so the Jordan Brown situation, I don't know if he, aggravated it, the same injury that he suffered in spring ball. That's the one that he suffered in spring ball, which is early part of, spring. It was an upper body injury. And we were told that he was going to miss a significant amount of time. It's not season ending, but he's going to be joining the team on the back half of the season. So the fact that he got in at this point was really surprising, in my opinion. Like, he was way ahead of schedule, and they're really high on Jordan Brown because he's very athletic. Like, he's a basketball player. He comes from a basketball background, but obviously he's got a bigger body, but he's very light on his feet and very athletic. And they like what, they can do at left guard with Jordan Brown. So I don't know if he re-aggravated it or if he suffered another injury. I don't know what the situation is there, but still, it's a big blow. Now, with that being said, Arizona had some injuries on the offensive line. That's why Jordan Brown got into the game. And Chuba Ma'ai left that game with an injury. He's not on the availability report, so that's a good sign for Arizona. And then also Ty Buchanan. He was a guy that left in that game against Oklahoma State, and he's not on the availability report. So if we're talking about the starters, Arizona's not down a starting offensive lineman, but they are without Jordan Brown, who's a big loss. And it's, it's depth that you don't have, but, they feel really good about the other pieces that they have there. And, Rhino Tapatotai is that swing tackle that's going to come in, and whether Tristan Bounds or Ty Buchanan go out, he's going to be that guy that steps in. And I mean, we were talking about Rhino going into the season as maybe being Arizona's best offensive lineman. And now he is the swing tackle, the official backup for both Buchanan and Bounds, which is a good problem for Arizona. Now, as far as the other guys, Jara Anderson and Kean Burnett. So Jara Anderson is no longer with the program. They just felt like it was best for, Jara to go in his own way. And, Jara is a really good player, and he's going to land somewhere, and he's going to be a solid player. I mean, he was a pro football focus freshman All-American in his first season at Memphis, and unfortunately suffered some injuries his time here at Arizona. And we were talking about him, being a part of that defensive line rotation. I mean, heck, Danny Gonzalez is over here, like, his body type, the way he plays, it kind of reminds me of Hercules Mataafa, the former all Pac-12, like all-world defensive lineman. And, oh, by the way, guess what? He's coached by the same guy. Like, I understand what Danny Gonzalez was doing. Like, Joe Salavia coached Hercules Mataafa. Maybe Hercules or maybe Bear is going to be the next Hercules.
Unbelievable
and when I heard
name,
that,
by the way.
Huh?
Unbelievable name.
Aura name, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Like, they're talking about, like, I hope, people are talking about Bear, the way they talked about Hercules. I'm like,
Yeah,
this
that's
is great. I love football, man.
Hercules is a name that I think only a Polynesian dude could pull off.
Yes.
Like I don't think any other ethnicity is pulling off a Hercules. Like there's something about the Mata'afa that fits perfectly with it, where you're just like, wow, that's a star. I'm honestly shocked he wasn't bigger in the NFL.
Regardless of ethnicity, I feel like Hercules, you can't just work a normal job and be Hercules.
Yeah, you got to be a football player.
Like, I'm not going to the accounting office trying to get my stuff audited, and I'm like, oh, who's here to help me? And they're like, oh, our CPR, whatever the guy, we got Hercules Mata'afa for you to help you out. I'm like, Hercules,
I called you in here today because you just haven't been doing enough of the Excel spreadsheets.
We need more sales.
Needing you to do.
What do you think the H stands for in H&R Block, guys? Come on now.
Hercules in our block.
Hercules, baby. Let's go. By the way, Hercules is the name of my childhood dog, after the dog from the Sandlot. So we love.
Honestly, great dog name too.
We love the name Hercules around here in the Spears household. But yeah, so Bear was getting some comparisons to Hercules early on, and I was like, whoa. Let's pump the brakes here a little bit. Now, he's a really good player. And I hope that he lands on his feet. And then as far as Kean Burnett goes, man, it's such a strange situation because, he signed in 2022 with Noah Fifita and Tetairoa McMillan and Jacob Manu. And if you were to tell me in 2022, who are going to be the most impactful players out of this Servite quartet, I would have said, okay, Tetairoa McMillan, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Number 2, Kean Burnett. Number 3, Noah Fifita. Number 4, Jacob Manu. And come to find out, you had T-Mac, Noah, Manu, and then Kean Burnett. I mean, Kean Burnett signed with Arizona as the highest-rated tight end in program history, or the highest-rated tight end since Rob Gronkowski. So he had these lofty expectations that he was going to come in and really be that big-time weapon for the Arizona Wildcats, even as a true freshman. Like, we were expecting him to get some serious playing time as a freshman. And then this Southern Utah transfer, Tanner McLaughlin, just kills it and becomes the starter and ends up becoming an NFL tight end. And, we talk about Kean Burnett being the highest rated tight end since Rob Gronkowski. Well, Tanner McLaughlin was the most productive tight end at Arizona since Rob Gronkowski. And Tanner McLaughlin then graduates and goes to the NFL. And Kean Burnett's like, okay, this is my opportunity. I'm going to become the guy. But he just kept dealing with injuries, had a sports hernia injury, had all these other injuries as well, and just really couldn't stay healthy. And we didn't see the Kean Burnett play at 100%, like we saw during training camp last year. Like, people think I'm crazy whenever I tell them. I'm like, no, guys, Kean Burnett in Arizona football training camp 2024, I swear to you, he was going to be Arizona's second best pass catcher behind T-Mac. Like, he was awesome in training camp and was coming down with all sorts of touchdown catches and big plays. But you know what? Jeremiah Patterson was also kind of the same way as well, and he kind of fell off a little bit. But Kean Burnett was never really healthy, and so we never really saw him reach his full potential, and it's very unfortunate. And he fast forward to the offseason after Arizona goes 4-8, he goes into the transfer portal because he just doesn't really like what's there at Arizona. Then they made some changes, and Kean Burnett, after his internship at Kansas, which I'm calling it an internship, he only spent a few months there in Lawrence.
His free trial?
Yeah, pretty much like a free trial of being a Jayhawk, and practiced with Kansas in the spring and realized, okay, I got to go back home and play for the Arizona Wildcats and play for an offensive coordinator that recruited him to USC. Seth Doege was the tight ends coach for USC when Kean Burnett was committed to USC before he flipped to Arizona. So they had a connection. They had a relationship that went back to the middle of his high school career. But then Kean Burnett in training camp suffers a hamstring injury. And then, much like last year, not 100% and could never just get to that point where he was being the Kean Burnett that we all know he can be. And, you have this redshirt rule where you could play 4 games and then take that red shirt, that medical red shirt. And Kean Burnett's like, well, I haven't used my red shirt. Like, I'm a senior right now. I could use this red shirt and preserve another year of eligibility, and I can come back healthier. And, he presented that opportunity to Arizona. And I think after conversations, both parties decided to say, let's just part ways mutually. And, we have a genuine love for each other. We have a respect for each other, but maybe it's just best for both of us to go our own ways. And Kean Burnett, he's going to rest. He's going to rehab, get that hamstring right. And, it'll be very interesting to see where he lands on his feet. He's a really good player. He's really got to be healthy. And I don't know. I don't know if Arizona is going to welcome him back with open arms, or if he's going to enter the transfer portal and leave. But for now, he is no longer with the program.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and honestly, I can't help but feel a little bit sad about the entire situation, to be honest. And
I'm very empathetic.
We've had Chester Burnett on this show. We really like the Burnetts, and we were rooting for Keon hard. We still will be, and wish him the best. And if he decides to stay, awesome. If he decides to move on, good luck to him. But you're right, Justin. Like, the expectations that were kind of put on the entire Servite crew that came over, but especially the second guy who was a highly touted prospect. I mean, because T-Mac's a 5-star, but Kean Burnett was a high 4-star. And, as far as your evaluation before they came in, Noah Fifita was a pretty mid-tier 3-star. Jacob Manu was like a 2-star, bordering on like the lowest 3-star you could be. I mean, so you're not necessarily expecting a ton from those guys. But a 4-star tight end who's like around number 150 prospect, like, you think that guy's going to definitely move some mountains over at a program like Arizona. And it's unfortunate that, with the family connections, everything, I think everybody wanted Kean Burnett to be such a thing. We have that Utah game forever. They'll never take away that Utah catch from me. But, it definitely is just a situation that just makes me pretty sad, to be honest.
Like you said, Damon, like, on a human level, I just have to feel for Kean Burnett, right? Because, like, you see someone who...
I'm being selfish about it too, Kevin. I'm not going to lie. Like, from a selfish Arizona fan perspective, like, I wanted to be fired up about this dude.
I mean, especially in the offseason. Think of where we were at mentally when it was announced Kean Burnett's coming back to Tucson. You and I are like, that's the piece. That's the vertical playmaker you need. A big body vertical playmaker, and a guy who has all the talent, right, seemingly, that you need to be an effective college football tight end, and just cannot stay on the field to no fault of his own.
He is inevitable. Snap. Thanos snap style. That dude is, inevitable is the perfect word for him. And we're going to need him. We're going to need Sam Olsen. We're going to need Cameron Barmore to step up the rest of the way with no Tyler Powell, no Kean Burnett. Because going into the season, you're looking at the tight end room like, man, this group could really take a huge step forward. And then now you're sitting there going, it feels like...
Yeah, this year's tight ends are last year's running backs.
Yeah.
With just the situations. Heck, if you think about it, Rayshawn Luke redshirted after 4 games. Kean Burnett redshirting. Like, it's... The parallels are interesting. But hey, don't sleep on the other guys, the T-Lokes, the Tucson natives, man. Tyler Mustang from Push Ridge and Big Red, Caden Luke, who is a fullback. That man is a fullback if I've ever seen one. I mean, that guy is more akin to Mike Allstott than Rob Gronkowski. Let's be real here. But, he's listed as a tight end. Maybe, I don't know, some undersized Caden Luke action.
If it's raining, Justin, we might see some Caden Luke. Genuinely, he could line up in some I form, maybe give you some fullback stuff. If it's really coming down during the game, I wouldn't be surprised to see Caden Luke out there on the field. But yeah, the tight end situation has definitely kind of been flipped on its head here in Tucson. But real quick, before we hit break, Justin, I did want to just ask you real quick about the availability report from the BYU side of things and just who potentially they could be missing that is an impactful football player.
Oh, you're asking me now?
Yeah. I mean, is Jack Kelly linebacker? I was giving you a little bit of more room to tell the people. I thought we were going you got Jack Kelly, you got Isaiah Glasker, who is probable. Jack Kelly doubtful. I know those are 2 big time linebackers for them.
Yeah, Glasgow and Jack Kelly. I mean, those two guys right there, they've combined for 13 tackles for loss this year. I would say, getting both of those guys are going to be, it's going to be huge for BYU, but one of those guys potentially could be out for this game. But I think, having both of those guys available would be huge for BYU because, if it gets ugly in terms of weather, they're going to need to really kind of stack the box a little bit. And I think with those linebackers and those tough guys that they have up front, they could certainly do that. I think probably Arizona is the healthier team going into this game, knock on wood, which really bodes well for Arizona because they're going to need all hands on deck to beat BYU.
Well, as Damon alluded to, let's hit our second break here. Well, I guess our first break. Is that our first break? I don't even know. I don't even know what day it is anymore. It's just football season, and we're getting closer to basketball season. So those are the days. It's either game day or it's not game day. That's what I'm getting at, Damon. That's what I'm getting at. We're going to hit our break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Leave a like. Do not go anywhere. Well, Damon, it is ad break time, and you know what that means. I got to talk to you about our friends over at Pure Edibles. Because like I was telling everybody in the office today, if you are not going to a dispensary, one of the over 130 dispensaries that dispense Pure Edibles, you're tripping. You're doing it wrong because Pure Edibles, not only is this a full-fledged candy company offering gummies, kicks, chews, and hard candies, they also mix it in with your favorite unique cannabinoids such as CBN, CBG, CBD, and marijuana-derived THC, our favorite. And if you look to the bottom left of your screen, or if you're on the audio, let me just explain why happy hour never has to end. Because right now you can enjoy the hop, terpene, aromas, and flavor of Arizona's favorite independent IPA, Tower Station. That is right. They have an all-in-one pen, and it is Tower flavored, IPA flavored, hops infused. It is beautiful. I've tried it. Damon's tried it. We can both attest this is a fire product. So go try for yourself some Pure Edibles products from one of the over 130 dispensaries that dispense the best edible products in the game.
A match made in heaven, Pure Edibles, and Circle K. We are, of course, PHNX Sports and Circle K, another match made in heaven because Circle K is just probably, I don't mean to play favorites, Kevin, but the favorite sponsor that we got. I mean, they do sponsor our studio. We got this beautiful logo that you guys are so accustomed to seeing every day on this fine program. And we just love our friends at Circle K, whether, you're trying to get a little caffeine pick-me-up, America's Thirst Stop has got you covered. They also have all the great snack deals. But let me tell you about the gas savings you could have by becoming an Inner Circle Rewards member. All you have to do is download the free app, choose an email, plug in a password, and you're done. And the savings are right in front of you. 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. Then after that, you'll save 3 cents off per gallon every time you fill up at the tank until you reach premium status, and you'll get 5 cents off per gallon like me and Kevin every single time that we need to get some gas in our vehicle. It's that easy. And the savings, I know 5 cents might sound like a little amount to you right now when we're talking about it, but Kevin, over the course of a year, I mean, that is genuine savings. Like you will be saving like, potentially triple digits amount of money depending on how often you drive by just signing up for the Inner Circle Rewards membership program and taking advantage of the deals that they're giving you on a daily basis. They also have their fuel days, Kevin.
Read my mind.
You can save like 40-50 cents off per gallon from the hours of like 6 a.m. to 12 a.m. They give you a whole window throughout the day, whether you're a morning, night worker. I know we are typically night owls over here at PHNX, so it helps us that they keep it all day long. We love our friends at Circle K. Please, please, please download that free app today if you haven't done so yet. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit circlek.com for details.
And we're back with the one, the only Justin Spears previewing Arizona versus number 18 BYU this Saturday, hopefully at 5 p.m. local time. And Spears, I know that you do a lot of good stuff over at Tucson.com. Part of that, I saw you were talking a little bit about Riley Wilson overcoming some mental hurdles in order to get back onto the field. Can you tell us just a little bit about like the situation going on with Riley Wilson and just how important it is that not only he overcame those mental hurdles, but that he's actually making an impact on the field at the end of it?
Yeah, Riley Wilson is a linebacker transfer from Montana and was one of those guys that they added that has the edge rushing experience, but can really get out and cover passes and be a versatile linebacker for Arizona. And I was really impressed with him in the spring, especially in the second half. really started to turn it up. And we're like, okay, maybe this guy's going to be something, and we talked to Arizona defensive coordinator Danny Gonzalez in the offseason, and he said Riley Wilson is going to be a household name in Tucson when it's all said and done. Just you watch. And gave him, some lofty expectations, and he called him a tough sucker and called him all these other things. And then I had this big feature story on Riley Wilson. Then all of a sudden Riley Wilson is sidelined, and we don't really see, Riley Wilson for, a little while, but he's kind of off to the side, doing his own thing. And we were wondering, like, what's going on with him? I mean, he's here, but he's also not, right. And come to find out, he was going through a lot of mental health issues or mental struggles. And, he was at a strange point in his life, but, he just really stayed connected with the coaches and stayed connected with the team, and being around those guys really helped him out. And, it wasn't like, he took off or he took the mental reps away. Like, he was still taking the mental reps and was still watching film and was engaged, but he just wasn't physically out there playing because, he just was going through whatever it is that he was going through. He didn't really want to go into, details about what he was experiencing, but, he did say that, he's very grounded in his faith. And, this was a person who, really stuck to his faith during this time and is better from it. Now, with that being said, now that he is in a better headspace, this guy is over here knocking heads, because this dude is getting into the backfield, getting sacks, getting TFLs, like in just a few snaps that he has played. I mean, you can make an argument that, like, snap for snap, the most impactful player that Arizona's had this year, or one of them, because it's just a small sample size. But in that small sample size, he has really made his impact felt. And I saw the comment, I think it was from Ben Wysong, who said, Riley Wilson breakout game loading. And I could not agree more. This guy is an absolute force, and he carries himself like a leader as well. Like, when he came into the press conference room the other day, he came over to all of us, shook our hands, said, hey, great to see you. Nice to meet you. Good to see you. And then went on the stage, answer questions. And just talking to him, he's very mature beyond his years, a very wise person for being such a young person. So no matter what Riley Wilson does in life, whether he goes on and plays professionally, with football, or if he goes on to join the workforce, the person that he is and just how he carries himself, he's going to be a great person no matter what he does. But so far, recently, he's starting to step up as one of those top linebackers for Arizona, and, going up against a team that relies on tough running backs like LJ Martin, a tough sucker at linebacker in Riley Wilson. Maybe that's just kind of the key piece to get out there and get Arizona's defense onto another level, because we already know they're really good at covering passes. They're the only team in college football that has yet to allow a passing touchdown this season. Maybe now that you add, a player like Riley Wilson, maybe there's just another dimension that this Arizona team can reach.
I know we talked about Trey Smith, Kevin, yesterday, and how he is like, that's a dude who's just, when you talk to him, it's next level. But I think Riley Wilson is the other dude on this team, for me at least, that those two guys, and speaking to them in the very limited opportunities that I've had, they truly like want to hear what you have to say and want to converse with you. It's not just like a typical, reporter, journalist, media member to player conversation. And I think, those guys stick out to you for sure. So, definitely rooting for Riley Wilson to get this breakout game. Feeling for Trey Smith and what he's having to go through this season. But Justin, one last thing I wanted to get before we get your official prediction for the game, and this one is tight. That line keeps bumping towards the Cats, but we experienced something similar with Iowa State. Could mean nothing. I did want to ask you though about the quarterback battle here, because I think, as much as we're 49 minutes into the show, we haven't even talked a whole lot of Noah Fifita. We've talked a little bit about Bear Bachmeier, but Bear Bachmeier is a true freshman. Has he performed admirably? Absolutely. I know we've mentioned BYU hasn't really played all that many people, but I think that, if you're looking at this one on paper as an Arizona fan and you're saying, how can we get the job done? Personally, I think Noah Fifita has to go out there and show why, he's not the true freshman quarterback that's starting in this football game. Do you agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, he's got to play with poise and maturity. And unfortunately for him, Bear Bachmeier plays with poise and maturity. That's why he's only thrown one interception this year. He's only had one turnover the entire year as a true freshman. And meanwhile, Noah Fifita, has he thrown 3 picks this year? Also,
2 in Iowa State and one against
and
Oklahoma
then
State.
one against Oklahoma State. So he's got 3 picks, and he also fumbled on the goal line too.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, Noah Fifita, you got to be able to take care of the football. That's one thing that Bear Bachmeier does very well. So if Noah Fifita can take care of the football and not throw interceptions, I know it's easier said than done, but some of these interceptions, you could make a case, it was off the hands of a receiver. No, there's been a couple where it was Noah's fault. So I think that Noah has to take care of the football. And, I also think that you can't have any third quarter lulls in this game. Like I mentioned earlier, like the third quarters have been a problem for Arizona in the last few games. And, if you go back to that game against Kansas State, I mean, both offensively and defensively, they kind of had a couple of oopsies, and then all of a sudden the game is tied. And you're like, whoa, what's going on right now? And then Arizona's defense turned it up another notch, and Arizona was able to prevail against K-State. And then if you look at Iowa State, because, they kicked off to start the game, they got the ball, they set the tone, and then, Arizona struggles early on in the third quarter, and it's just like at that point, the game is just a little too far out of reach. Against Oklahoma State, back-to-back 3 and outs, like Brent Brennan said, like, this is a crisis. Like, we have to fix this right now, and you can't have these third quarter lulls against a team like BYU because they're going to make you pay for it. As a matter of fact, look at last year. It was just a 1-possession game, if I'm not mistaken, last year at halftime. And then what happened? BYU, they came out, they set the tone. Arizona had a couple of turnovers, and next thing you know, the game was completely flipped on its head.
That game was a disaster.
And it was the third quarter, man. And Arizona was right there in that game, and then it just completely got out of hand real quick.
Quarter. That's what we like to call it.
Third quarter. Arizona has been playing a third quarter over the last few games. You cannot have a third quarter against BYU.
I love that. I think that's a great thing for Arizona fans to keep track of in this one, because you're right. Like, out of halftime, it does feel like the opposing coaches have maybe gotten the best of the Arizona coaches in terms of game planning, especially the Kansas State game. Talking about the Oklahoma State 3 and outs, even though, obviously that one was over at halftime. But yeah, how does Arizona respond out of halftime? I think is going to be a big one. And as I said, like I do think that Noah Fifita is going to have to outplay Bear Bachmeier and do so pretty clearly, because I think BYU has a more talented football team than Arizona. So I think that you're going to have to win on the margins, and one of those margins is my experienced junior quarterback who's had a ton of time in college football and has really played up there with some of the best quarterbacks in the sport in his tenure, versus a guy who's really not played a competent team so far this season, unless you want to count East Carolina, which I think is debatable.
The spirit of ECU.
Yeah, the spirit of ECU is Kevin's favorite song, of course. But as Ben said in the chat as well, Uncle Ben, like, I think Danny Gonzalez is going to dial up some blitzes that maybe throw Bear Bachmeier off his game. I'm not saying that that's going to be the reason Arizona wins, but I do think that that's going to be the game plan is throw some looks from a blitz standpoint at Bear Bachmeier, the true freshman that he has yet to see at the college level yet. But Justin, this spread is 1.5 as of now. It is an inclement weather game. How are we feeling about this one? Do we think the Cats can get the job done? And do we think the Cats will get the job done?
Unfortunately, we're not going to get a Fetty Wap score. So we're not going to see, 17-38. But, like you guys said, this is the toughest defense that Bear Bachmeier has faced all season long. And Danny Gonzalez is going to throw the kitchen sink at a true freshman. So blitzes from guys like Aiden Garnes, maybe Genesis Smith, Dalton Johnson, Traydon Stukes, the linebackers that they use, like Bear Bachmeier is going to have to be thinking in this game. And if you get that true freshman rattled on the road, look out. And so this is a tough defense on both sides. Arizona has the 10th best defense in college football. BYU has the 8th best defense in college football. It's like the Spider-Man pointing me when it comes to the defenses, man. These guys are legit, both Arizona and BYU. And then considering the weather, I feel like a safe bet is the under. Whatever the under is, just go ahead and take it.
It's like 47.5, I think.
Oh, of course. Of course it's 47.5 because it opened up at 50. And now I'm sure over the last couple of days, with the weather becoming a topic of conversation, that number has gone down a few points. So of course it's 27 point or 47. Wait, 37 or 47?
40.
47.
I think.
Nah, still take the under. I'm going 20-17 Arizona.
Wow.
This is my bold prediction, guys.
I love
so
it.
Last
that would
time,
be absolutely massive for this program. Just the things that this could do in terms of trampolining you into the second half of your season. A win here would just, I mean, it changes the math on the entire rest of the year, in my opinion. And your one loss you're looking at is to a ranked team on the road in a whiteout environment. And it's like, yeah, you didn't play well, but I think you can kind of just chalk that one up to the Big 12. Like, that's a tough game. So yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm going to ride with you tomorrow, Justin. We will find out on our pregame show, which of course will be live at 4:30 p.m. But it fires me up to hear a man of your stature and what's the word for it?
Wisdom.
Status. Status. There we go. To pick the Wildcats to get the W.
Well, here's Spears Adamas, right? This is what I'm predicting. Okay. So the last time Arizona beat BYU in Tucson was in 2006, right? Nick Folk kicked a game-winning field goal. That was 19 years ago. And by the way, Nick Folk still kicking in the NFL, still the last Mike Stoops era player in the NFL. But that was 19 years ago. Arizona starting kicker, Michael Salgado Medina, a.k.a. Funky Cole Medina, he wears the number 19 jersey number. So 19 years later, Arizona's 19, makes a game-winning field goal, and the Wildcats win 20-17.
Justin, if Michael Salgado Medina is jogging out in the rain with a 17-17 game going to kick a time-expiring field goal, I can't even imagine the collective headspace of this fan base, where it would be at, the things that would be said on Twitter. I mean, the things that I would be feeling in my body, I couldn't deal with that personally.
Because if he makes that kick, Justin, in a hypothetical scenario where it's 17-17, it's rainy, Michael Salgado, Funky Cole Medina walks out there for the kick. If he sinks it, I would buy you a steak dinner.
Okay.
Wow.
I'll take that.
Wow.
As I heard the hypothetical coming my way, I leaned back. I was like, he's not going to say Funky Cole Medina for 3, right?
I mean, that's good vibes. It's
good vibes.
Kevin, you just put good karma out into the world.
Yeah, we got to get Spears his steak dinner.
You know what? I'll split with you, Kevin.
Let's go.
That's what this podcast is willing to do.
The boys take Spears to steak.
Yeah. We buy Justin Spears a steak dinner for correctly predicting a walk-off field goal for the Wildcats. That would be incredible. Justin, we appreciate your time. Thank you for hopping on with us on a Fired Up Friday, per usual, and giving us your predictions for the week.
Medium rare with potatoes, fellas. I'll see y'all later.
Understood.
Absolutely. You can, of course, follow Justin at Justin Esports on Twitter. You can follow him and his great work at Tucson.com for the Arizona Daily Star and his written articles. And, of course, on Spears and Ali, 7 to 9 a.m. every weekday morning on ESPN Tucson 1490. So, yeah, it's, of course, support Justin and his great work. Kevin, we do have one last ad break. Let's get it out of the way real quick, and then let's give our best bets on the AZ Wildcats pod.
You already know what time it is, folks. I'm talking branded bills. You see it on Damon's head top right now, the PHNX Phoenix edition of the branded bills. And if you are like us over here at PHNX and you have a brand that you want to elevate, there is no better way to do it than with our friends over at Branded Bills. Now, Branded Bills, not only does it have the best, most comfortable headwear, it also, my friend Damon, it also gives you status as an Arizona Wildcats fan. Because when you walk into that Arizona campus store, what do you see? The Branded Bills display. You see the Branded Bills display and you automatically know that is fashion. It's the best way to elevate your brand. It's the comfiest headwear in the world. Whether you need snapbacks, truckers, fitteds, beanies, or tees, Branded Bills is the best way to rep your favorite brand or elevate your personal brand. Head to brandedbills.com and use code BBPHNX for 15% off your first order of the most comfortable headwear in the entire world.
head on over to Brandon Bills and go get yourself break off a piece of this headwear, because as Kevin said, it is so unbelievably comfortable and stylish. But I also have to talk to you guys about my friends over at Game Time, because gametime.co, or download the free app. That's going to be the only place to buy college football tickets all throughout the season. Football tickets, concert tickets, comedy show tickets, you name it, Game Time has it in your city. I guarantee you that. And Game Time is the only ticketing app that I use these days. And for good reason, Kevin. They have a great interface. A lot of ticketing apps don't. They, they got that dark screen, that night mode, which I'm so accustomed to and what I love. They show you where your seat's going to be right, before you make a purchase you regret. They include all the ticketing fees as a part of the price of the ticket, so that you're not left scrambling and oh my God, that's $40 per ticket, more expensive than I even thought it was going to be. I love the Game Time app, and the Game Time Picks feature is going to show you exactly what the best ticketing prices and options are based off of price, seat, you name it. They'll do the math on it for you and tell you what is best. So hit up gametime.co, like I said, or download the free app, create an account, use promo code PHNX, and get $20 off that first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. And Kevin, as I said, we do have our bets to get through real quick. And I know you're itching to get out of here, my guy, because we got a Merc game tonight, and it does mean everything, guys, because elimination on the line for the Merc. Kevin is going to be on the wood. Kevin's going to be touching wood tonight, fellas. So, let's, and ladies, Kevin will be, in fact, touching wood tonight. So make sure that you guys are tuning into the Merc game, maybe seeing if our boy is on screen. I know I'll be looking out for it.
Erica will be there as well.
Of course, Erica will be there as well. I know that you guys love Erica. And support the PHNX Mercury show when they do their post-game show as well. Just great work going on over there. Win or lose, we're going to hang out with our crew over at PHNX Merc. Steven, Erica, Kevin, everybody. Maybe some tequila, Kevin. You never know. We got our Three Amigos tequila now going in the office, so we might pop one of those bottles open, win or lose. We booze over here at PHNX Sports. But let's get into these bets real quick so that you can get on your merry way, Kevin.
Before we get into the best bets, and I do want to start with yours for a specific reason, because we have our good friend Sam Alberts in the chat predicting Damon's best bets. Oregon minus 7.5. That was almost one of mine. Texas Tech minus 13.5, and Georgia minus 3.5. Damon, how did our friend Sam do?
Sam, are you accusing me of only taking like strictly chalk bets? I mean, not that any 50-50 line is truly chalk, but he is accusing me of solely betting on powerhouse programs, which is fine. I mean, I'm just all about winning over here. So, Sam, you can do the same thing that the PHNX Cardinals guys, Johnny and Bo, they did it to me all season long on a hold or fold the line last year, Kevin, where I was just picking winners. I was the only guy in the positive, and then they're coming at me for the bets that I'm taking. And I'm like, isn't the goal of this thing to win money, or is it to have the most risky bets,
Yeah.
So I guess without further ado, why don't we start off with my bets and see what I got? Because
wow. Over 3.
I'm not thinking that these are chalk. What I am thinking, though, is that this last one is nasty. The second one is something that me and you can agree upon. And this first one, let's get things started with UNLV, the undefeated UNLV Rebels, taking on the Air Force Falcons, Kevin, who are atrocious. Air Force just lost to Navy. They're 1-4. That's a rivalry game. I know they kept it close in that one. Navy is 5-0, so they're pretty good. But Air Force has lost to Hawaii. I covered on that one. Air Force has lost to Boise State. I covered on that one. And I'm just going to continue to do it. UNLV is at home. They're undefeated. They've been taking care of the Mountain West this year. I think they win this one easily by more than 7 points in one possession. Let's ride with UNLV to stay undefeated. I'm going to keep it going with Cincinnati, Kevin. Like I said, I think this is one that we can agree upon. Cincinnati has been absolutely rolling as they've gotten into Big 12 play here. Brendan Sorsby is perhaps the most underrated quarterback in the entire country. I've been saying that all season long.
Biggest Brendan Sorsby guy you'll ever meet.
I've been talking about how disrespectful everyone's been being towards Brendan Sorsby for as much as anyone could listen, and that's why I'm riding with my guy, Brendan Sorsby, in this one. Hashtag sorry Sorsby, to get the job done versus a putrid UCF team also at home, Kevin. That's what I'm going to continue to do. I'm riding the home teams. Give me Cincinnati at home at 9 a.m. an early kickoff. I guess it's a 12 p.m. kickoff if you're East Coast time, or maybe it's 11 a.m. But I think the Bearcats roll the Knights in this one, and so I'm going with Cincinnati. And then to round this one out, let's go with Utah first quarter money line against the Arizona State Sun Devils. Now, this could be a little risky, Kevin, because it could be close in this first quarter, right? I mean, it's a big game. It's probably going to be a little bit tight in the first quarter. You might not see teams try to do everything that they can. Here's why I'm going with this. You got Jeff Sims under center, Sunday Guy Sims under center. I think ASU potentially makes this a game.
Good defense.
They have a great defense, maybe best in the conference. I think there's a chance ASU makes this one a solid game. But if they do, I think it looks like every ASU game looks. And that's they get down and they claw back. Kenny Dillingham special, right? I think if there's a chance that ASU wins this one, it probably is because there's some sort of late comeback from the Sun Devils. I don't think that it's going to be that they just completely just outplay Utah in this one or go toe-to-toe with them over the course of the game. I also think there's a world in which Utah just blows them out because they have Jeff Sims under center and he could just capitulate and start throwing up all over himself, in my opinion. He is that bad at football. So
little Puff Johnson moment.
That's where I'm like, I don't know what could go on here, but what I do think will go on here is Utah gets out to the early lead and wins the first quarter. So I'm going Utah first quarter money line against the Sun Devils, and I considered doing a 7-point spread on that one, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and do first quarter money line instead.
I love some of your bets here, Damon, as we recap it. UNLV -7, Cincinnati -11, Utah first quarter money line. And as we get into my bets for week 7.
Show me something, Kevin.
That middle one, it ain't changing. Cincinnati -11. I feel like it has to happen.
I stole your bet this week. I'll admit it. You had it in there first. I also like your other bets, Kevin. Tell me about your other bets.
Yeah, like Cincinnati -11 over UCF. I feel like that has to be the case. Cincinnati has been on absolute fire. UCF has been kind of performing as better a little bit more so than people thought coming into this year, but not enough to cover against Cincinnati, in my opinion. Moving into my next bet for this week, we're talking Houston. We're talking Cougs, but not the BYU Cougars. Oklahoma State has allowed at least 41 points to all Power 4 opponents so far this season. Houston has scored 36 against Colorado, 35 against Rice, and teams that rank those two teams rank 76th and 59th in scoring defense respectively. So feels like if Houston wins against Oklahoma State, which they are almost certain to do, they do it by at least 15 points. Moving on to that third bet, it's the Red River rivalry between Oklahoma and Texas, and I am siding with Boomer Sooner in this one. One of the best defenses in the entire country, and Arch Manning cannot hit water if he hit or fell off the side of a boat. And so for that reason, I think Oklahoma's defense makes it tough on the young QB Arch Manning. And walks out of there with a W, and you're getting a point. This is pretty much a money line bet. Oklahoma -1 versus Texas. And plus, Texas has only covered once in 5 attempts so far this season. So go with Oklahoma, go with Cincinnati, go with Houston to cover this weekend.
Love it all, love it all. I thought about maybe stealing your Houston bet as well. I didn't go ahead and do it. But, Kevin, I'm a big fan of your bets. Hopefully John Mateer is ready to go.
They're saying he might play, but even if he doesn't, I think the backup is good enough to get the job done. With the defense that they have.
I heard that he's going to suit up. Yeah. So I think that you're probably in the clear and that Mateer is going to be there for Oklahoma. But I will say that, if he doesn't play, I do feel a lot worse about your chances in that one. If he does play, though, I think Oklahoma is clearly the better football team than Texas. So we'll see. I do love these bets from our perspective, though. I think 5 games there, 5 bets, and I'll say it, 5-0. Feels like
have we had a perfect combined perfect weekend?
I don't think either one of us has even been perfect.
Damn.
Maybe week 1, but I think we've been 2-1 basically every week. So that is we do need to get a record compiled together for the people. But yeah. Apologies to those of you that are interested in seeing how we're doing. But
all that matters is if you're tailing our bets, you're making money right now. And if you're doing that thing where you get both of our 3 bets and you take 2 of them, you might be perfect so far this year because we're going 2-1 every week. So pick your best 2 bets of our best 3, and we're probably going to make money together, folks.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do so with our friends at Bet365 if you do, because it is an unbelievable app, and this is not a paid-for ad. It's just me speaking from the heart because I do actually really love Bet365. I think it's the most underrated sports book, and I don't even think it's close. The interface, everything, Beautiful. Sign up with our promo code PHNX. Appreciate everybody for joining in on this one. Kevin, it was a lot of fun. We had Justin Spears on. Thank him so much for being here. Was there something else, my guy?
Shout out to AZCats genuinely one of our biggest supporters of this podcast. I feel like since day one, since me and Damon took over this show, celebrating 1 month of membership. Another great show, guys. We appreciate your incredible support, AZCats. Thank you for always tuning in. You always send the super chats, and you always support us with the membership as well. So if you want to become like AZCats, like me, like Deborah, like so many other of our MVP members, it's just $4.99 a month, less than a medium-sized or venti cup of coffee. And you can, rip all your favorite Wildcats emojis in the chat, hold some extra status over the other chatters as well. I know that status is a big deal. So don't you want to be the highest status? Become a Hall of Fame member if you want to. So that's my spiel on that. Become a Supporters Club member. Help support this podcast. Help us keep doing all the cool stuff that we want to do, like going to McHale, doing shows live from Arizona Stadium. If you want more of that, become a Supporters Club member today.
Absolutely. And let me just put the bat signal out for the people. The ASU chat is our number one at our company in terms of Supporters Club members.
Yeah, they run it up. They really do.
They do. And every show they get the troops going, they galvanize the people, and they say, let's throw up our, disgusting hand emojis that we have here in the chat. We need to get on that level, and we need to be better than them.
You got to show this company that U of A fans are better than ASU fans.
Well, we all know that we have a more passionate fan base than they do.
Correct.
That's not even really up for discussion. I mean, they show up when their teams are good, but we show up all the time. And so I think it's time to prove that to these people. Let's not just let a little purple patch of Arizona State fan form make them think that their fan base is just going to crap all over ours. It ain't like that. Shit ain't sweet, Kevin.
It's not sweet.
Not on the Easy Wildcats pod, but that's a discussion for another day. Everybody, please become a Supporters Club member. Helps us out so much. As Max does here, you can see he's dropping those Wilburs in the chat. And you can be just like Max if you sign up to be a Supporters Club member as well. It's only $5. You basically just get a super chat. So if you're a super chatter, it's well worth it anyways. And of course, you get the perks of being able to use all of these fine emojis here. And you know what? Appreciate everybody for being here. Even the person who just disliked this video. You scumbag. But like this video, subscribe to the channel. Follow me at Damon Dog. Follow Kevin Thomas at KevoPost. And follow us at PHNX_Wildcats on all social media. Also, AZ Wildcats Pod on TikTok, where we're going to be rolling out some really cool Basketball Media Day content that we have in the works for you. So please, please, please support us on all socials. Helps us out so much. That is our job, if you didn't know.
Whoa.
So please help us out by following us on the social media apps. And we will be back on a Saturday, giving you a pregame show 30 minutes prior to kickoff, 4:30 p.m. Make sure that you guys are here on the channel. Notifications on. We will be live to do our pregame show for the BYU Arizona game. Then, of course, we'll be doing our postgame show about 10 to 15 minutes after the clock hits 0. Shout out Kevin for the week. Grinding, doing Merc content. He'll be live later on PHNX Mercury. Win or lose, we booze over here at PHNX Sports. And, of course, we'll be back on Saturday, like I said. I'm Damon. That's Kevin. We're the AZ Wildcats Pod. And until next time, peace out. Bear down.
And go Cats. Mighty Mercury on a fired up Friday.
We all silly like the mayor.